Okay, welcome back for the phases of Kundalini with Jana Dixon. We are on page 84. Okay, you guys. She says, just like everything else in life, Kundalini cycle goes through a specific flow of chemistry. The general periods for a full-on awakening are 2 years of priming, okay, 6 months of peaking or apex, like going up, and she says a 3-year peak and a 5-year recovery. So that's 2 plus 3 plus 5, so we're up to 10 years plus the 6-month apex. So think about that. And if we generally start around 27, 29, it could be all the way through till you're 40 before you're really having the integration time. And I definitely see that in a lot of people. But awakening comes in all shapes and sizes. The peak apex of a mature awakening is usually around 6 months, and the awakening itself usually around 3 years. Then assimilation is about 5 years, and it can be longer. I think I've been really assimilating for probably about 7 years now. These figures are almost impossible to contrive because everyone has an awakening specific to themselves. Each stage has its particular sensations, symptoms, emotions, and thoughts. Broadly speaking, the following outlines the linear process. She's, again, trying to really lay down loose ground, that this is loose, and she's speaking broadly because everyone is unique. Kundalini process cycles through these phases again and again. Remember, creating a hyperbolic wave of nested cycles. So like the Russian doll stacked inside, we're cycling one smaller cycle inside a bigger, inside a bigger, inside a bigger, okay, as we're awakening more and more and more and more. The first one is priming, okay? 2 or more years of sexual heating, increased creative drive, the muse energy, thyroid and sex hormone activation. So that's like a priming period. You can tell when someone's acting up in this way, that there is that readiness for the Kundalini. Then we have the influx, that's the second part, an opening, a grace, an ecstasy, an electrical sensation. That's the initial inner conjunction. Double helix of energy rising around the spine could also be called the sex with arrows or the light, God's lightning bolt, because it can be a profound, that's the influx, you're getting that cosmic juice, right? Then the shock comes from that, which is sort of like what happens after an accident, right? The thing happens and then you like go into shock. And you probably go into shock a little bit while it's happening, but you don't notice it really like your consciousness until right after. So it's similar, even in the positive, we get the influx of God energy, then the shock, like major septic shock from the nitric oxide of the influx, which can send you into a contraction or a panic phase, which is the sympathetic adrenal hyperactivation thing we talked about earlier with the white shock. So if you don't remember that, you can go back a few videos, probably about 3 videos, maybe 4, back to the white shock. So the body is flushed with the nitric oxide. We contract after that big expansion, okay? And that sympathetic adrenal hyperactivation is going on, like, whoa! The shock sensation. Then transmutation is the 4th stage, okay, of the phases, which is fire, heart expansion, the need to ground, remember, and the gravity sort of warping experience. So now it's like energy comes in, boom, your body's like, what just happened? And then your heart starts to know, so it's opening, and we've got the heat generating. That's the feeling of the Kundalini in the body. The main inner conjunction now, okay, this is the 5th part, which is full body, orgasmic, massive energy up the spine, can be paralysis because it's just so intense. The silver cord and achieving oneself, she says in italics. And each phase she has then in italics. The first one's thyroid sex hormone activation, not quotes, but how do you say italics with your hands? Then the sex with arrows, God's lightning bolt, is the second one of the influx. White shock is for shock. Silver cord or achieving oneself. Oh, she actually doesn't have one for transmutation. It's just transmutation. So priming, influx, shock, transmutation. main inner conjunction where you achieve yourself. This is that like inner marriage experience. Okay, then we have the die-off as the sixth phase, where the ego becomes inoperable. You have like 3 to 7 days in bed. Your body could be really achy or painful, that like eating oneself feeling, which is a catabolic breakdown, and is also could be referred to as the dark night of the soul, the death before the resurrection. So this is usually the painful, like depressing, dark, like what just happened to me, disillusionment after this like vision that you have. And every time you have a Kundalini awakening, every phase, every greater one or smaller one, all has this phase, right? All of these phases. So the dark night is going to fluctuate. Usually it feels the worst the first time because you're unfamiliar with it. You don't know what it's going to be. You think it's the end. And when you go through Kundalini awakenings again and again, you realize when you get to the death phase, oh, that this is necessary and I just need to surrender into it. Like that's where you eventually get. Then the heart brain sync up. Okay. And that happens during that die-off period, during that depression. That's part of why you're offline. That's part of why you're discombobulated and don't know what's going on and feel terrible, is because there is a restructuring of the body, of the nervous system, the neurons, the mylar sheath, like all the interconnected connections, and like how the body speaks to itself, what hormones need to be produced. That's all in the restructuring, you know? So sometimes you feel like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just offline. I'm just crashed. I don't know anymore. I can't see what's going on. Okay, that's the die-off. Then the heart-brain sync is going on under that. And finally, you get this more mature perspective. Okay, the right orbital funnel limbic connection activity and associated heart expansion happens. And you can get these little brain gasms as you're starting to have new thoughts, new ideas, new awareness. She says penis on the brain, brain orgasms for the heart-brain sync. And then substantiation is the final phase, and that is the regrowth period, building higher quality tissues, the more complete integration, and where it's a calm, wholeness, and spiritual will. She also says the anabolic spiritual will. So you got the upgrade, you have a mature understanding. Now your body's really like sinking into it and growing new muscle fibers around that way of thinking. Like, oh, this is where we're going to be now. We're going to grow tissues to support that, integrating on all levels, okay? All these cycles have to do with the mechanisms of biological transmutation, but one can talk about it in terms of cell life duration, homeostatic coping abilities, reserves of resources, mental, physical, emotional blockages and resistance, conduciveness of one's environment, and rest, recovery, repair. So we can talk about it in terms of all these things, right? The question of the down cycle's relationship to the up cycle is a big one for Kundalini and is always fascinating to me. The intensity of the up cycle is usually equivalent to the intensity of the down cycle. I'm always telling people that also, like if you go up in this polarity, you be ready to go down. If you're down, be ready to go up. If you're left, be ready to go right. And the degree to which you're willing to go one way is the degree you're going to go the other way. That's the equal and opposites. That's the law of the universe. That's one of the Hermetic laws. So this might make, however, once we understand the actual neural hormonal chemistry better, we should be able to modulate both extremes. So you're learning how to adapt faster. This might make Kundalini awakenings more functional and adaptable to everyday life. Conscious navigation of the alchemy will not make awakenings less profound, but with greater knowledge, there will be less resistance. Secondary defense coping strategies, story and terror, so the whole process should go more smoothly with less stress and organic damage. So you're just not freaking out as much when you know what's going on and you have awareness. So you can handle what's going just out of simply like knowing what's up. And that's why I'm reading this book. Actually, I just want more people to understand this process and know what's up so that we can manage it better together. Metamorphic chemistry takes over our life. whether parasympathetic relaxation or sympathetic excitation, these cycles run of their own accord and demand adherence. But do we have to make sure we are indeed following signals? We do have to make sure we are following signals and going with the particular phase and not fighting it. So if it's grounding and relaxation and exhaustion, we have to give in to that and not try to overwork ourselves or take stimulants. Like, we have to be willing to surrender into whatever phase we're in, right? Similarly, the excitation phase does demand greater exercise. Breathing, hot baths, time in nature, you got to do that, or you're also going to inhibit your process. So that is, we must have a sober and respectful adjustment to whatever reality is presenting in order to work with our metamorphosis. Okay, I surmise that the trajectory and duration of an awakening is determined by all body systems and conditions, coupled with one's life experience and the specific work that Kundalini was doing in the body, plus the nature of one's spiritual practice. So taking all these things together is going to say how long it's going to take and what it's going to look like, you know? So what's going on in your body systems? What are you working with? What are you doing with your body? What is your spiritual practice? How much do you know about this? That's all going to take part in how this goes. By conditions, she said, I mean strength, conductivity versus friction, and reserves. So in other words, strength of protein structures, strength and openness of cardiovascular system, strength and development of the nervous system, the immune strength, degree of muscular spasticity, the toxicity load, the plaque or ama built up. Ama is a term in Ayurvedic medicine to talk about how much toxins, liver efficiency, glycogen stores, antioxidant supplies, mineral and enzymes reserves, plus hormone and neurotransmitter resources. So what's going on in the whole body pre any Kundalini awakening is definitely going to determine what it looks like and how long it takes. She's giving all these things that matter. The phase of metamorphosis cycle round roughly in an annual cycle following the seasons and solar lunar gravitational tides. So over the years, the cycles do get easier, much easier, or we become more conscious of them and embrace them. Things tend to get less electrically raw, and also with time, and once we're over the peak years, it gets much easier. So as we know and we adapt and we know what's coming, we learn to learn, and our resistance gets slowly worn down by ecstasy. We learn to find solutions, and through meta-adaptation, we can face into Kundalini without fear. Consciousness ceases to be a problem. The more people that do this, the more awaken as a collective organism, and thus the less likely we are to commit a global suicide through heightened sensibility, which is a real threat right now. Let's not commit global suicide by not knowing another way. Because all the events of the world that are happening right now, they're all triggering awakening. They're triggering mass Kundalini awakening, mass spiritual awakening, and that's because we need it. We need to mature our consciousness as humans to take this thing to the next level in a way that is healthy, that is cooperative, that is next level in a conscious way. I mean, we have to become aware of all the things that have been tripping us up under the surface, right? That's what we do personally. We have to look at where our emotional triggers, where the blocks, where the self-denial, where the, the things that have been misfires have been going on. So they're all surfaced. They're all coming out. This is part of the dark night of the collective soul, the collective awakening. But it's important that we understand the process so that we can help each other out. So I'm going to end today, another short day, with I don't know who wrote this, but it says, Tao is all magical power. And it's like a little poem. Beauty defined by contrast, paradox and polarity, primordial being and non-being, non-struggle action, with gratitude. No need to possess yin and yang, rest and motion, contraction, expansion. Tao is dynamic, continuously renewing and interweaving, heaven and earth, born of a continuum, eternal cosmic organism. He who follows the Tao is one with the Tao. Tao is eternal, elusive and intangible, yet Tao is inexorable. I said up there, no need to possess yin and yang, but I think it's just no need to possess yin and yang. They're not periods, but it is a different line. Anyway, we're going to get on to tomorrow. Down is up. So that's an interesting little section. It might be closer to 30 minutes tomorrow. So thank you for joining me again for a little peek into the biology of Kundalini, and you can read it online, lulus.com, or pick yourself up a copy. Jana Dixon's Exploring the Fire of Life, excellent book. I'm excited that you're here reading it. Please leave any comments or questions down below, or if you want to have a personal session to support your transformation, let me know. Sending me an email, stasiabliss@gmail.com. Or you can just check out some more videos that are here. I try to put a lot of videos up to support the transformation process. Remember, like how we're doing on our spiritual practice and how much we've done to support ourselves is going to ease the process. So I really recommend the Yoga Nidra practices that are in the yoga and meditation section, because they help you unload the subconscious mind. And a lot of the triggers that come up for us when we are going through an awakening that make it so difficult are things that have been trapped under the surface, like unbeknownst to us in our subconscious, that just come out and make a scene. So Yoga Nidra helps to clear that stuff out, and you can do that yourself, going to sleep at night, just listening to the tracks and following along the best you can, and let your body do the work. That is a really great surrender practice when you're not really sure what else to do. Just do those again and again. Half an hour of Yoga Nidra is equal to 20 minutes of Yoga Nidra is equal to an hour of deep regenerative sleep, okay? Really, really good for your whole system, especially during these times that it might be hard to get some deep sleep. Okay, I'm Stasia Bliss. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.